The 2022 Toyota Corolla Cross. Back to basics. Toyota lately has been so busy trying to make more sporty cars, trying to add more emotion into their car, and kind of straying away from their main mission. This car, however, brings things back to basics. Toyota is king when it comes to making functional, common sense, everyday cars. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Corolla Cross. We're going to see why this car brings things back to basic and why I think it is very good. We're going to talk about some things I like about it, some things I don't like about it, and we're not going to do the typical technical review that I do in my reviews because I've already done that. I will leave that video in the description of this video. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's go check this thing out. Let's start with the interior of the Toyota Corolla Cross. This basically, as the name suggests, Corolla Cross. This is a modified Corolla hatchback, kind of pumped up to make it bigger, raised up, and then the interior is spanned out, and there are a few modifications to it. For example, the dash is now flat. It doesn't have these bulges on the side like the Corolla, which some people hit their knees, including myself, when they get in. This doesn't have that. It's a flat dash, and it actually gives it a feeling that it's bigger because you don't have that curve that kind of closes in on the sides and make it smaller feeling. It feels open and flat. The interior here is super basic. Again, back to basics. There's no extravagant design to make it all flowy and cool looking. No, it is very functional. It does not give you a false sense of character. This interior fits the character of this car. This car is a common sense car. Sitting in this car, you don't really need to be a technological expert to operate everything. You don't need to be used to jumping in 10 cars at a time to really get familiar with everything. It takes 5 minutes for anybody to get familiar with everything inside the Toyota Corolla Cross. The climate control, very simple and laid out and very easy to reach. The infotainment system, even though some people will call it dated, ancient, old, not good, but you know what? People who buy the Toyota Corolla Cross, they're common sense people. They're going to want a radio to do the basic function. Radio. It'll have Bluetooth, it'll have a backup camera, it has some amenities that you will need, but that's it. No extravagant infotainment system to distract you from the road. It works, and it works very well for its basic function. It's a radio with Bluetooth to listen to music. Nothing less, nothing more. Then you look at the center stack over here. There is not 1700 buttons. There is actually very simple and directly in your line of sight seating heater buttons, which are just toggles. Very simple to operate if you have them as an option with the upper trim like this one, the XLE trim. And then you have your traction control, auto start stop on off, and then parking brake, brake hold. Very nice features, but they're not confusing to understand. The signage is very simple. Everywhere you look, there's not really that much complication. Very simple car for someone who's busy with life and doesn't have the time to read the 700 million pages of owner's manual to understand how to turn on the seat heater. And that is something that Toyota does very well. It makes owning this car a stress-free experience. You don't have to learn anything. Everything is very simple, and it's not going to add a burden to your life. This is the common sense and back to basics part. And continuing on that theme of common sense transportation, the seats don't have big bulges on the side and big bolsters to make sure you are tightened in your seat. These are extremely comfortable seats. They are so comfortable. I have a bad back. Perhaps you don't, but I do. And my back is very happy driving in this car for a week because the seats are extremely comfortable. This is a car you're going to take your family on a trip. You're going to go to work and back every day, perhaps long commutes. You're going to be extremely comfortable in these seats, which is a big plus and something that Toyota has really not been doing. They've been heading in the wrong direction with bucket seats and all that mess. And the materials inside of here. Look, folks, this is an entry-level car. This is not a fancy, very expensive car. The materials are not soft touch and the highest and the latest and the best quality. But you know what? Quality is subjective here, because when I say not the highest quality, that means it's not the highest quality leather, but quality it is, because everything you touch is solid. There's no stuff that creaks and rattles. And some folks have mentioned this is a car made in a new factory in Alabama and it's gonna creak and rattle everywhere. But you know what? I've been driving this thing for a week. I put a lot of miles actually on this because I really wanted to push it to the limit and see what happens here. There's no rattles, no squeaks. Everything works very well. No panel gaps are all over the place. It's actually a very pleasant build quality here because, again, they did not have too much to put together here. Things are simple, and the simpler things are, the less things will break and the less chances of things going south when they put the car together. Now, there's one thing on the interior that is completely out of character on the Corolla Cross. Not really a functional thing, but a visual thing. So this Corolla Cross is kind of based or shared with the Toyota CHR and the Lexus UX. They have a lot of close shared components. But unlike the CHR that is strange and interesting, this is a very common sense, very good transportation car. But if you look at the edge of the front windshield, there is a very interesting silhouette of a car, of a crossover. And if I'm not mistaken, that looks like a CHR. It doesn't really look like a Corolla Cross. Comment down below, what do you think this resembles to you? To me, it resembles a CHR, unmistakably. In the back seat, I think the space for this size of car is pretty good. Both of these seats are in my driving position. I am 5'8". I am sitting comfortably in the back seat. There's a little bit of knee room, not a lot. So if you're taller in the front, you're going to push the seat back. This might be an issue. But in my seating position, I am very comfortable. I have plenty of headroom. Everything is not cramped and small, even though, remember, this is not a large SUV. This is actually a small crossover. Let's talk about the exterior, starting with, to me, a small hidden Easter egg. It has to do with that silhouette that we looked at in the windshield. Do you see this line right here? This is, to me, a very interesting design because if you look at the side profile of the Corolla Cross, it's actually almost flat. But this design, and that's similar to the silhouette and actually repeats in the back, we're going to take a look at it. Because this is pushed in, and then this is pushed in, and then here it's a little bit pushed in, it actually gives it an illusion that this part is raised up. It almost looks like it has wide fenders or widened fenders, but they're actually not. And that's kind of an optical illusion. When you look at it, it looks like muscular a little bit, but it's not. It's because of this. And that shape actually appears on that silhouette. Pretty interesting. Let's go look in the back because the same thing happens in the back. And over here in the back, we have the same thing. However, in the back, it is actually pushed out a little bit, but not as much as the front. The front almost looks flat. But again, this indentation right here gives it the impression that we have a raised or a wide fender in the back. And again, this shape follows that silhouette. So you have these two arches. Maybe that's what the silhouette is meaning, but to me, it still looks like a CHR. Let me know what you think in the comments. But other than these two touches, everything here is functional. The roof is exceptionally tall. It almost gives you the impression this is a narrow and tall car. The reason for that is you have plenty of headrooms. The seats could be elevated, so you have that SUV feel when you drive it. That's why the roof is so tall. And the overall look on the outside is pretty understated, and that's by design, because you don't want your basic common sense transportation to be showy and all in your face. This is not. This will be the car that will park in the parking lot and nobody will think anything of it. And that's perfect, because people who will buy these cars are common sense people who want basic transportation that is reliable, that makes sense, that is easy to use, that will not add a burden to their lives. Back to basics. They really did this one well, folks. Another thing on the exterior, the back lights. They remind me, or at least they could have been inspired by the original Toyota Sienna in the US. Every time I look at them, they just look very similar, at least to me. But another thing on the back is a small Easter egg similar to the one in the windshield. If you open the hatch, which is power on this one, this is a fully loaded one, right here, there's the same silhouette that is on the windshield. Just another Easter egg to remind you that we made this sensible, but we left a few things here and there just to give it a little bit more character. Pretty cool, that is. The back space is really functional. And this is another thing of the Corolla Cross. They did not make the shape of the outside to be a design line and all that mess. They just made it functional, so the space here is not compromised by the shape of the body. And one thing I like, unlike the CHR, this has a proper tonneau cover. Really nice to cover your items here and not some flimsy little piece that is permanent. You can actually retract it and now everything is wide open. You can fold the seats as you see here. Pretty cool. Plenty of space here. Not the smallest SUV as it appears on the outside. And another thing that I absolutely love about the Toyota Corolla Cross, which is, again, back to basics, function over design and coolness. When you pull this, there's a spare tire. Yes, it is a space saver, whatever you want to call it, but nonetheless, it's there. You don't have a little inflate kit. No, you have a full spare tire here. Again, function over design and being cool. And of course, just like anything else, there's nothing that is perfect in life, the Corolla Cross included. I truly like this car overall, but there are a few things that could be deal breakers for you, so let me share them. The first thing is, it is hopelessly slow. And when I say hopelessly slow, I mean by standards of normal, sensible cars, Corolla, Camry, Yaris, it is hopelessly slow. I mean, if you have a heavy foot, you're not going to like this because it is extremely slow. This is a much bigger car and it basically has the exact same drivetrain from a Corolla. They really could have went with a RAV4 drivetrain, a Camry drivetrain, the 2.5, 200 horsepower. This would have been perfect. But it is on the underpowered side, severely. It was kind of a shock, actually, because you drive a Corolla, it is peppy, it is good for its intended use. This is very slow. Merging on the highway is a problem. If this is something that you look to in your sensible, common sense car, this might be a problem. So make sure you focus on that on your test drive when you're looking to buy one. And then the other thing, it's not really a big deal, but this is more of a taste thing. I said this car was sensible and reserved looks-wise, but one thing is excessive. The Corolla Cross name. Initially, I really like that the Corolla Cross name is like engraved in the headlights on the side and on the taillights. It's very subtle, very nice. But on a closer inspection, there is Corolla Cross written on the roof racks. There is Corolla Cross written on the bumper protector and on the door sills. I think that's a little excessive Corolla Cross. I don't think anybody will have a problem recognizing this is a Corolla Cross from all of these badges everywhere. A little bit overkill there for such a reserved and common sense car. Another thing is the wireless charger. Now this is the problem when you start putting too many options in a base model car or a sensible car. It's just not big enough. If you have any kind of phone that is bigger than a standard size phone, like an iPhone 12 Pro Max, that's what I have, you're gonna have a problem keeping it in that wireless charger. It's too big, it's gonna stick out, so it's not sitting on that rubber block that keeps the phone from moving. And every time you make a turn, it moves to the side, and now it's not charging anymore. So every time you make a turn, you gotta push your phone back, otherwise it's not charging. So If this is kind of phone you have, perhaps don't splurge and go for the wireless charger model just because of that, because it's not really put in the best location in the world. So what is the final verdict on the Toyota Corolla Cross? Folks, this is a proper Toyota. And some folks have had concerns over this being a Mazda because it was built in the new factory shared with Mazda. But this is a truly proper Toyota, not just in the way it's made or components, no, but in the image and in the design language. I mean, this is a truly well-made car that does not take any compromises when it comes to function. Nothing is compromised from its functionality to make a little design feature or make it look a little nicer or make this body line look nothing. Anything that stood in the way of function got taken out. That's why it looks reserved, looks basic. It is a proper common sense car. And when I say car, I mean a Toyota tank, because the build quality here is really high. Folks in Alabama should be very proud in that brand new factory. Typically when new factories are open, you're gonna have some issues. The finish is not great. This, however, I really like. Things are looking really good for that factory so far. Back to basics, folks, is the theme of this car. But there is something beyond the back to basics. Because usually when we say back to basics, a few years ago, actually, not too long ago, that means manual windows, no power locks, and things are kind of ancient. But this has the character of back to basics where everything is easy to operate, but it actually does have a lot of amenities that are pretty cool and advanced. For example, if you go for the top trim, you can have an option with adaptive front headlights. I cannot believe that I'm saying this on a Corolla model. This is a Lexus feature that is actually not available on many much more expensive Toyota models, but it is available in the Toyota Corolla Cross as an option. Pretty cool option, and actually a functional one. When you make turns, the headlights turn to illuminate where you're going. Pretty cool option, it actually works pretty well. But beyond that, the thing has so many options that are not in your face and distracting you all the time. It does have very good safety features. Not the latest 2.5 plus Toyota Safety Sense, which is kind of a surprise for a new model, but nonetheless, it does have all the safety features standard. Have adaptive cruise control, lane tracing assist, and whatnot. All of these are standard. And driving this car is actually a very pleasant experience. Look, the thing is loud, and I didn't even say this in the things I don't like about it, because, I mean, it's an entry-level car. You don't expect it to be whisper quiet. It is loud on the highway, typical of this segment. But the visibility is great because you don't have these crazy design lines that take away the functionality. The visibility all around is excellent. The other thing is just the feel you have inside of it, that you're driving a very sensible car. It's almost like your body's on cruise control. You don't have to think to change the radio. You don't have to think to use any of the functions. It's a very relaxing drive, actually. And it's kind of brings the spotlight on the newer cars with all the gizmos and the screens, and it's too distracting. This is actually relaxing because you don't have screens glaring in your face all the time and you having to pull out your master's degree in IT to just turn on the seat heater. It is back to basics and it's very refreshing. Folks, I've driven this car for a week. I am really impressed by it. Not because it is technologically advanced and all that jargon that it seems like everybody's so focused on, and that's all we care about. This is honest to God basic transportation that works very well, makes no compromise in making your life much easier by not having to think about every little thing. This just takes you from A to B, no drama, no fuss, no making more stress in your life, and it works very well. As you've seen, even functionally as a car, as a family car, I really like this size because when it first came out, I was looking at it, I'm like, why do we need another SUV? We have all these they're kind of like shoe sizes now. But when I sat in it and drove it, it makes absolute sense. This is a really good size. Makes a lot more sense than CHR, even though they share a lot. This is much more functional than a CHR. And one last thing I will say about it. Prices. Some people will say, well, this is priced like a RAV4, but the RAV4 prices have gone up. If you're talking about RAV4s from 5-6 years ago, maybe, but not today. The MSRP on this makes this a really bargain in a way. I know the market is crazy these days and you can't really get things for MSRP easily, but even at MSRP, this is a lot of car for this MSRP. And when you top it out, like this one, this is decked out, every single option, it's $33,000. That does get well into RAV4 territory, but not in this option level. And there's rumors of a hybrid model coming, which I hope will fix the hopelessly slow part with the help of the hybrid system. Let's hope for that one, because this would make an excellent hybrid model. Folks, I hope this video is helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.